Hey guys, what is going on? Space here. Welcome back to another video, and today we are playing some Pokemon Unite, a game that I haven't played in a while, and I haven't made a video on it in a while as well. But I think right now is pretty appropriate because a lot of changes have happened in the game. Quite a few updates have been going on. You got Serena added to the game. They changed the battle arena to make it like this winter theme. You got Stantlers in there and Cub Chews and Articuno instead of Zapdos, which is pretty cool. Let's just go ahead and move on to the topic of this video, or at least part of the topic of this video, and it's that Dragonite has been confirmed for Pokemon Unite. It comes out in like less than a week or something like that. So that's actually really hype, and is actually pretty huge in my opinion, being the fact that he is a pseudo-legendary. Now, we already have a pseudo-legendary in the game in Garchomp, but I think Garchomp is kind of a gimme for games like this. In my opinion, he's the most popular pseudo-legendary. Not my favorite pseudo-legendary, but definitely the most popular. He was in the starting roster for Pokemon Unite. He was in the starting roster for Pokken Tournament back in 2016 when that came out. So, games like this, Garchomp is going to be included no matter what. I'm actually surprised he's not in Smash Bros. Because you have a legendary Pokemon in there in Mewtwo, and to have Garchomp not in there is actually kind of strange. But I'm not gonna complain about the Smash Ultimate roster. That roster is already insane as it is. But yeah, the fact that now Dragonite is included in Pokemon Unite, I think that opens the door completely for every single pseudo legendary in the game. I think it opens the door. I think they can all be in the game at some point. Now that you're willing to include pretty much multiple pseudo legendaries now. So I figured that it would be pretty cool to go ahead and discuss which roles that each pseudo legendary would probably fill. We know that Garchomp is a melee all-rounder, and it's been revealed that Dragonite is going to be a ranged all-rounder. So let's go ahead and see what the other ones could potentially be should they be released for Pokemon Unite. Now, we already have the Generation 1 Pseudo-Legendary down. Dragonite is already confirmed to be a ranged all-rounder. So moving on to Generation 2, we have Tyranitar. So Tyranitar is very interesting. Tyranitar has the second highest physical attack stat of any of the pseudo-legendaries, tied with Dragonite actually. And he has very solid bulk. He has 100 HP, 110 physical defense, and 100 special defense. That's the most balanced defensive spread amongst all the pseudo-legendaries. You have some pseudo-legendaries that have, maybe a high special defense stat, maybe a high physical defense stat, but maybe low HP, and just like these weird combinations. Tyranitar has like this nice mix of high attack and good bulk, but the drawback is that he's slow. So being an attacker, being a speedster is not really in the cards for him. You could say attacker because of his high physical attack, but I think he would fit the best as a defender. I think he would definitely fit that role the best, especially since he's slow. He can just go ahead and defend goals and take a lot of hits, maybe be there right in the middle of team fights somehow. Maybe give him some type of crowd control. I'm not sure what you would give him, but he would definitely be able to take a lot of hits where he'd be in Pokemon Unite, and I think he would fit really well in as a melee defender. So yeah, I think that would be pretty appropriate for him. Tyranitar is the only pseudo-legendary in Generation 2, so let's move on to Generation 3 that actually has two pseudo-legendaries, and the first of which is Salamance. Now, Salamance is kind of interesting because he's also fitting the dragon flying typing that Dragonite shares. A high attack stat, the highest amongst the pseudo-legendaries. Decent bulk and really good speed, the third highest speed amongst the pseudo-legendaries actually. I think Salamance would probably be a ranged attacker. Being that Dragonite is a ranged all-rounder, I think Salamance with the, slightly or, pretty much the same attack, but, less bulk, but more speedy. I think as an attacker, maybe even a speedster, but he's kind of like too, I don't know, a pseudo-legendary as a speedster is a little bit weird to me. I think he'd be the best as a ranged attacker. Now we'll move on to the second generation 3 Pseudo-Legendary, and that's Metagross. And Metagross is interesting. He could probably fill a couple of roles. He has, again, tied for the highest attack stat with Salamance, the highest physical defense stat, and decent stats all around, but also kind of slow. Decent bulk as well. I'm not. I don't think Metagross would fill the attacker role all that well. I think he would be either an all-rounder, a melee all-rounder, or maybe a melee defender, kind of like how Tyranitar is. Maybe an all-rounder. It's hard to choose between the two because, again, he has a high defense stat, decent special defense, decent HP. So he could be a defender, but he could be an all-rounder as well because of that high attack stat. Yeah, he could fill either of those roles, I feel. It's kind of hard to choose. Generation 4 Pseudo-Legendary is Chomp. He's already in the game. We know that he is a melee all-rounder. So let's go ahead and move on to Hydreigon, who is the Generation 5 Unova Pseudo-Legendary. I think it's pretty obvious what Hydreigon would be. I think he would also be a ranged all-rounder, just like Dragonite. He has really good attack, decent bulk, pretty good speed. He kind of does it all. He has an interesting typing as well in Dragon and Dark, not necessarily Dragon Flying, even though he would fit that description, but he's Dragon and Dark. But he has a really solid stat spread all around. There's not just like one thing that he excels in, even though, it seems like his special attack stat does, outshine the rest, which it does. It's his highest stat of everything else. But he has good stats everywhere else as well, so I think he would easily fit the description for a ranged all-rounder. Goodra is Generation 6's Pseudo-Legendary, and that's another one where I think it's pretty obvious where he would fit in Pokemon Unite, and he would actually fit perfectly as a defender. Yes, he has a high attack and special attack stat, but I mean, look at that special defense. He has good HP, not a very impressive physical defense stat, but I think Goodra, just the way that it is, the way that it was in the anime and stuff like that, I think Goodra would be perfect as a defender. Probably a melee defender. But maybe, Goodra has a really wide move pool, so I guess you can choose either melee or ranged. Did I say melee before? I meant to say ranged. I think a ranged defender, but I think either one would fit, but defender for sure for Goodra. Next, moving on to Generation 7 Pseudo-Legendary, and that would be Como. Como, I think, would also probably be an all-rounder. It's interesting to see, these stat spreads. They all have a total stat spread of 600. That's how you get that distinction of being a Pseudo-Legendary. Just like Hydreigon, I mean, just a really solid spread all around. Just high stats. Other than HP, really high stats all around. Good defenses, good attack. Definitely a melee all-rounder, in my opinion, just like Garchomp. And lastly, Generation 8's Pseudo-Legendary, which is Dragapult, which actually has a really cool typing in Dragon and Ghost. I think is very obviously fitting of the speedster role, and the reason that is because he has the highest speed stat of all of the Pseudo-Legendaries in 142, which, if you think about it in a competitive Pokemon sense, is actually absurdly fast. Okay, he has a really high attack stat. Defense is not that great, so he would, again, perfectly would fit in the speedster role, because speedsters are pretty frail, but they have excellent movement, and they score really easily, do a lot of damage, but their weakness is that they're frail, and Dragapult easily fits this as a speedster. I think probably a melee, melee or ranged, either one, but he has to be a speedster for sure. And that is pretty much it, guys. I think those are pretty accurate assumptions of what these Pokemon could potentially be should they be selected for Pokemon Unite. I don't think all of them are gonna make it in. Maybe Dragapult, just to have, you know, a little bit of a change of pace on how, or you know, the kind of Pokemon that you have in, you know, in terms of pseudo legendaries, because now you have two all-rounder pseudo legendaries in the game. Dragapult would be a speedster, which would, you know, diversify the speedsters really nicely. So I think Dragapult will actually be an excellent addition to Pokemon Unite. So we'll see. So that's pretty much it, guys. Go ahead and say in the comments if you agree with my predictions, or, you know, put your own in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.